and thanks for joining us for today's AVST live webinar. Today we're going to be talking about CallPilot, from security threat to future-proof. Want to draw your attention to a couple of our upcoming webinars, and when you receive our email follow-up for this session, which will include a link to the slides as well as the recording, we'll also give you a link to where you can register for some webinars that are coming up in the next month or two. And in addition, in the invite, we mentioned we are doing a Plantronics headset giveaway. And so I just want to let you know that that will happen post-webinar as well. So you may get an email from us if we draw your name for one of these great gifts. So we look forward to providing you those. And with that, I will go ahead and turn it over to Neil.
Thank you, Ann. Welcome, everyone. Thank you for attending. Ann and I were just talking before the webinar about how difficult it is to target some of these in terms of knowing what people want to hear. And there's so much going on out there. And I think we have about 20 webinars kind of in our active rotation right now. So hopefully this one is very upfront about what it's about. So everybody here should be very interested in it. And if you look at kind of what's going on in the market in general, you know, if you go back 10 or 15 years, the telephony market was a very stable place, and there were major players and some minor players, and things didn't really change all that quickly, and that's all sort of gone to the wayside. Things are very, very flexible in the industry, and most of you who have a CallPilot have experienced some of that. So if we look at the ex-Nortel customers, now Avaya customers, and talk about kind of interest points, the first one right now, are the one that's most urgent, I think, are the security and compliance concerns if you have some of the older Nortel products. You know, most of the Nortel products have been end-of-life in terms of new product development, and depending on where that happened in the process, you might have been left with a product that right now is maybe not such a good thing to have on your network. But that's still a good environment. I mean, that switch is still a good, solid switch, and I know lots of you want to get years more use out of that switch. So we're also going to talk about how you can, you know, solve some of these problems without a complete forklift upgrade. And we're going to show you how to do it in a way that when the time does come where you have to face what you're going to do with your Nortel infrastructure, the pieces that we're going to talk to you about today, you know, they won't be wasted. We're not going to, you know, sell you a short-term solution and you have to face evaluating this all again. So everything we do kind of focuses in those three areas. So if we look at our strategy for Nortel replacements, Nortel enablement, our first is extend. Let us see what we can do to get you by some of your immediate problems, but let you continue to extend the life of that investment. And I'm guessing most of you are pretty happy with the switch and the functionality and what it does. Secondly, let us show you what you can do at the same time to enhance some of it. You know, everything that we do with our products, we do on all the phone systems that we support. And what that means is you can not only solve some of your problems with some of your older technology, but you can start taking advantage of some of the newer features. And then down the road, that leaves you in a place to evolve, to move forward in any direction you have to. You may look at a replacement strategy down the road that says something like, I'm going to upgrade to a newer Avaya piece of gear to get out of the older stuff that I can't use. Or maybe I'm going to go into the cloud with BroadSoft, or maybe I'm going to go in the Cisco generation. It's a wide open world for that part, and we want to make sure you understand as we move forward, we're not limiting you in any way. The pieces that we're going to talk about today for replacing, if you do that, you'll still be clear to move forward any way you want. So today, you know, we're talking to you, and you've all come to our webinar, and some of you probably knew who we were before you received our emails, and some of you probably weren't all that familiar with. So the question comes up, you know, why are we here talking to you about this? And we think we have a pretty good story. We've been around a long time, and we've been known in the industry for our connectivity, our interoperability. So we work in all the environments out there today, and certainly we've been working with the Nortel product for 30 years. So we're a very knowledgeable player, and today our products can solve your immediate problems, and that's what we're going to talk about shortly here, and help you extend the life of that PBX. But at the same time, our product is very much, you know, up on the next gen UC capabilities. A lot of these areas we pioneered, and you'll find the other things we can show you just a quick look at today are some kind of things that you probably are thinking about, but maybe have been told that, you know, a complete forklift replacement of your older system is required. And we're going to show you how that's not true. And we're going to set you up so that no matter what direction you're going in, you're going to feel safe taking our solutions forward. If you do know anything about us in the market, like I said, you know, we're kind of known as one of the legacy voicemail players, and we have the best interoperability out there. But at the same time, we've done other things as well. We've gotten a reputation in the mobility world for call completion and mobile application that's really untouched. We're going to look at some of the things we offer that are totally unique, and I think most people will see the value of those. And we have a really good history of tailoring our product to match your business processes. And what that means for us is our ability to write custom applications as well as the packaged apps, and our ability to connect with anything in your enterprise. So from an interoperability point of view, you're interested today because we can connect to your Nortel PBX, which we can and have been doing for years. But at the same time, this same product we're talking about, it connects to any PBX, any cloud PBX basically that has any kind of SIP connectivity, any of the legacy PBXs, any of the newer IP, voice over IP products. We make it a point to make our product a product that we can go talk to anybody without having to ask them to replace most of their infrastructure. We do the same in the groupware product, in the groupware area for some of our applications where we connect with your groupware. We have the same kind of interoperability where we do both the cloud, so we can do Exchange, we can do Office 365, we can do Gmail, pretty much anything that follows any of the industry standards. We have some presence controls. We won't really look at those in this webinar, but we connect to the Skype and Link product for a number of things. We connect to your groupware calendar for a lot of really handy functions, and once again, a very wide range of things. And then custom-wise, we actually connect to various data applications. So if you need an application that goes into SAP and allows customers to read information out of the database, that type of thing, we do that. And our fax slide here needs to be updated. We do write fax. We've worked with write fax for years now. But we also do ex-medias in the fax over IP world. So we have a number of fax solutions that we can tailor depending on what you need, and then our support for mobile devices is just as wide. So let's kind of take a look at how you would use our product to solve your current solution, but also to set you up as you move forward into other worlds. Primarily, you know, we're talking about you have a CS1000, if you have a CallPilot. Nortel did support putting the CallPilot on other systems, although I never saw one installed on anything besides the Nortel system. But if you look at this product, this was a pretty interesting product. It was introduced quite a while ago, a little after 2000. Came out as a standalone pure IP product, and they also developed a version of it that would sort of bolt on to their existing Option Series PBXs. So once again, you could extend the life of that product and still take advantage of some of the newer IP solutions. But then unfortunately, our market just really started to get crazy, and now we had a case where a major player, one of the two largest players of communications in the US, actually went bankrupt. And Avaya took advantage of that and bought out the Nortel Enterprise part of that operation, the Nortel base. And they kept support around a while for the CS1 and the CallPilot system, but you know, eventually it didn't make sense for them to keep everything alive. So even though they kept support alive for a while, when they did the final software release on the CallPilot, it was unfortunately running on Windows Server 2003. And at the time, that was already a 10-year-old operating system. So that's really where the problem that we're going to address today, right, is it could well be that you're perfectly happy with the functionality of CallPilot, but it's just not something that's very safe to keep in your network. So there was a lot of products in the Avaya mix by then, by the time they'd also rolled in Nortel. And they had a couple of them that frankly were a little long in the tooth, CallPilot and Modular messaging. And so rather than upgrade those and upgrade the operating system and move those products forward, Avaya decided to replace them with another product, Aura Messaging, and that kind of left the people with Modular Messaging and CallPilot stranded. There is a way to upgrade in terms of replace the system and get some credit back for it, I believe. But really, those product lines are dead in terms of the CallPilot. While you can get it supported through some other third-party vendors, it's just a little bit of a problem to have something with Windows Server 2003 on your network. And I know there are people that will say, well, we'll just take it off our network. And that's possible. But so there's no fixes for it. There's no support for it. And it just makes it difficult to justify having a product that runs on that. You're going to pay more and more and more for maintenance contracts. And you'll notice the little phrase in your maintenance contracts, best efforts, where people will sell you a nice expensive maintenance contract. And all they're really doing is saying, we'll show up and give it a try. But they can't necessarily guarantee to get it fixed either, because there's nowhere to go for parts or anything else. And if you have any compliance issues in your organization, depending on what your area is, you're gonna find a problem with anybody that does a compliance audit with that. And security risks are just really too high. So you're at that point where you may want to keep your existing Nortel PBX infrastructure, but you need to get rid of the CallPilot. And we think we have a pretty good solution for that. Now, one of the reasons is we've been around a long time, and actually our product is the oldest and most mature in the market. First version hit the market in 1985, and we've been continuously upgrading and developing that product since then. You could have actually installed our product in 1985, recorded your greeting and your name, and you could be using the latest and greatest version of our product today using that same recording. Now, we would have changed a lot underneath the covers over those years. A couple of new operating systems have come and gone, a couple of compilers and things like that in the software world, but we've done an excellent job at maintaining all the features and functionality from the legacy systems. What that means is when you move over from to our system, that big disruption of business just won't happen. We have a great set of alternate telephone user interfaces, and they emulate probably the interface that you're using today. We can emulate the Octel Aria or Serenade, the Intuiti Audix, the Nortel Meridian Mail, or certainly CallPilot, the Mitel Centigram interface, the Adomo interface, which is really the Aura messaging interface, or the older Active Voice, Kinesis, and Repartee interfaces. Plus, we have multi-level menus, all the features, the kind of message notification you're used to, the handling of all the telephony issues like multiple mailbox numbers and dial plans. We've been doing this for years. So it's a very safe and smooth migration. The other piece that's a challenge sometimes is some of you might be using the menus. The CallPilot had a pretty good menuing system with a nice tool for building automated processes, and as a result, a lot of people use those. And if you look at moving forward in some of the newer systems, you'll find they're very limited. And we're not, just because we've had our product around so long. We still have all that functionality. So complex multi-level menus, answering scenarios with different time zones, all of that is no problem with us. No problem with us at all. And we've taken this further over the years because we've continued developing these features. A lot of the industry has gone through great consolidation where you might have had 5 or 6 systems in a geographic area 2 or 3 years ago, and now you want to consolidate them down. And the challenges there, besides just the networking to put into place, are things like departmental menus. You know, how do I have somebody say John Smith in an automated attendant in one site, and I only want to look at that site and not the other site? So all those challenges for consolidation are also going to be handled by our product. So the basic core functionality of what you have in CallPilot today, including the user interface, will just be a smooth transition over. And basically, you'll send out an email to your users. You'll tell them they're in a new system now, and there's a little bit of different setup for them to do, but we prompt them through it with a tutorial, and it just won't be disruptive to your business. And that's a good first step, and that's what you're probably worried about. But at the same time, what you should be looking at is a system that solves your immediate problem, but also one that can give you extra value. Go beyond just solving this problem you have. And that's where we come in Because yes, we do voicemail and automated attendant and have for 30 years, but there's a lot of other unified communications functionality on our platform that you should at least take a look at, even if you don't choose to implement it, but you should know it's there because it's the kind of functionality you are going to be wanting to add in the upcoming years, and hopefully the platform you buy today, will still be around for that. I mentioned earlier, probably one of the things we do better than anyone else out there is call completion. There's studies that come out every year, and the last one I saw, I think, said 17% of calls into an enterprise to a person connect on the first attempt. And that's not surprising because very few of us just sit at our desk and take phone calls anymore. We're very mobile. Even if mobility is just in meetings and in the conference room and down working in the lab or whatever else, it's hard to find people because people are moving around. And yes, they have devices with them, but even managing how those devices are going to be used is complex. So we have a call completion engine that relies on context. What that means is it reaches into your other systems to find out information about your users, and it uses that information to route calls. So kind of starting over on the upper right, the calendar is the most obvious one. If you're in a meeting, you probably don't want to receive a phone call. So why not have a system that automatically can read that you're in a meeting, and instead of transferring the call to your phone that vibrates sitting there in the conference room, it says, John Tyler is in a meeting, he won't be available till 1 o'clock. And then it allows them to take a message or try another person or whatever the other options are. That's an incredibly powerful way to handle calls, to treat callers better, give them good information. And you can take it a step further. If you have our mobile client on your phone, we can actually give you silent pop-ups when you're in that meeting that will actually show you have a call from John Tyler, what do you want to do? And it'll let you take that call, send him an acknowledgement silently, saying, I'm in a meeting, but I'll call you back in an hour. There's just a whole range of things you can do to more efficiently handle calls when you're in the meeting. Going down below that, we do the same thing with the Skype presence engine, Skype or Link presence engines, and how we do that is the same. When a call comes in, we can read somebody's status. Now, what might that tell us? Well, we might know that they're in the building, but they're not at their desk, because you can tell from Skype that they're away, and you might want to change the greeting or even change how you route calls. Moving across to the bottom, Web Phone Manager is actually showing our user client there, and the screen it's showing is our schedule. Users can build schedule that say, based on day of the week and time of the day, how do they want their calls handled? And now this automatic schedule does things like stop sending you calls at 6 o'clock in the evening, so you don't have to turn your mobile phone off. It just stops sending you calls, and then starts again at 7 when you're in your commute to work. Just something as simple as that is very powerful. But the most powerful piece is the location capability. Up in that left corner, you see people working. And, a long time ago, we came up with the tagline, work is an activity, not a location, and that's never been more true than now. Depending on where you are, how callers reach you can change drastically. And it can change in how the calls are sent to you. It can change in the information you give the caller. It can change in what device to use. Almost everyone has at least 2 devices in their business world these days. That would be their desk phone and their mobile phone. Some have a lot more than that. Some have a home office number, a regular office number, 1 or 2 mobile devices, perhaps a soft phone on their iPad or their laptop. So knowing where you are changes how we communicate with you. So if you have our mobile client, we let the users go in and build and define locations. So in my case, I went in here and built a location called at work, and I built a rule that says when I'm at work, and it knows that because as soon as I come into work, my mobile phone can be pinged and by our call engine and say, is he at work? It'll say yes. It'll send the phone calls to my desk. As soon as I step out of the office and drive away, it'll know I'm not at work. It'll automatically send my calls perhaps to my mobile phone. Or perhaps when I went in at home, I have another location built and it sends the calls to my home office number. So by having this context, we do 2 things. First, we increase call completion dramatically, and that's just a good thing any way you look at it. And secondly, if we can't find the user to send a call to, we give the caller better information to set their expectations. Neil Butler is away from the office. Neil Butler is working from home. Neil Butler is in a meeting. The ability to give that information out is almost as important as the call completion. Partially, we do that with our mobile client we talked about, but our mobile client also does lots of other things. It does call screening. It does voice messaging. This is probably one of the things we've found in the last couple of years. People want to get their messages when they're mobile. And while you can put your voice messages into email and then get them on the mobile phone from the email app, some people don't like that for security reasons. So we have our own app, our own secure app, where you can go ahead and get your voice messages. We stream them down. There's no copy of the message left on the device. It's highly secure. And all of that kind of call settings that users need to do to maintain their mailboxes now can also be done from their mobile device. And face it, very few of us are more than a foot or two away from our mobile devices during the business day. So having functionality that runs on the mobile device is just a great way to send it out. Probably the single biggest thing you can do for productivity for mobile workers, though, is use the speech-enabled personal assistant. So now I have this solution, our Call Express or CX solution, that's tied to your groupware and knows so much about you, and now I can start taking advantage of that. With a speech interface, you're now safe and legal to interface with your system in a lot of times and places when you weren't before. So you get to convert that non-productive time into productive time. With a full speech interface, basically I start my day, I drive out of my driveway, the system now knows I'm not at home anymore, so no matter how early in the morning it is, if I'm not at home, I'm fair game. It'll send calls to me. I can answer calls. I've already probably dialed in and said, get my new messages, and it's reading me my emails and playing me my voice messages. I get an e-message from a coworker asking if we can meet that afternoon. I can go and access my calendar. I can say, create a new meeting today at 2 o'clock. Who do you want to invite? Mark Reed. So I have this ability to be highly productive with a speech interface that's, once again, it's about a 15-year-old product now. It's been around quite a while. It's extremely powerful, extremely easy to use. And the productivity gains there for anyone who travel, car time in particular, is amazing. We kind of claimed our early fame, I think, in being the first to deliver unified messaging. So we've been doing that for about 20 years now. And basically anything anybody tells you about unified messaging, yeah, we do that. And we do a bunch of other things as well. The trick here, I think, is flexibility. Where are you going to store those messages? What are you worried about in terms of security? What extra features do you want, like voicemail transcription and things like that? And all of that is covered from our telephone user interface, our mobile client interface shown here, and our web interface. We have a free web client that lets users get to their voicemail messages from any web application. So it's a very powerful messaging platform. We also have some other new things we're doing. If you look at call completion, the other area we've targeted on in the last few years, there are certainly call center products. Great call center products out there, powerful multimedia contact centers, hundreds of agents. You're doing all the great call routing, and they're so productive, and you can actually run a report that's down to the minute how productive they are. That's pretty well covered. What's not so well covered are the smaller sort of informal work groups. Like, think of your IT help desk, where you might have, I don't know, 10 or 15 people in a room taking phone calls. And they all have slightly different skill sets. And you can put them in an ACD system, but it doesn't really work. So TeamQ is a pull model, skills-based routing, informal work group call management tool. And what that means is we're going to answer the callers. We're going to interface with the callers and ask them some questions. Who are you? What are you calling about? That kind of technology. We're going to put that on a screen, and the agents, based on their skill set or territories or whatever you're accomplishing here, can pick the call that's for them and pull that call to them. It's a much more efficient way for these informal work group calls to be handled compared to even an expensive ACD group. All of the functionality we've talked about, all the solutions, are applications that run on our platform. They're not new servers. They're not new pieces of hardware. They're not new lines coming into this system. unlike most of our competition, we have simply expanded our platform by adding new functionality, and you license the portion of it that you want to use. And that makes all of our stuff less expensive. If you look at what it would cost to add a 25-seat ACD with a traditional system, which would typically be an extra server or two, compared to 25 on ours, we're somewhere down in the 15% range cost-wise. Because of our approach to put everything on a single platform and leverage it all, most of our solutions tend to be less expensive than the ones we compete with. So if you look at kind of our short-term delivery here, you probably have to do something about your Nortel equipment. You're probably not going to be comfortable long-term to leave it connected when it's running on Windows 2003. But at the same time you do that, you should also take a look and see if you can't add some other benefit. Why spend the money to just get that problem solved when you can put something in that gives you a great increase in productivity or customer response capabilities, and also sets you up so that you're future-proof as you move forward. And now we're ready for questions.
Okay, thanks very much, Neil. I want to mention one thing before we start with the questions, and that was I forgot to mention regarding the slides. Those are posted in the handouts area, so if you're interested in downloading those now, feel free to do that, and then we will also send them as part of the email follow-up. Okay, so and if you would like to submit a question and you haven't already done that, you can find the question box toward the bottom of your webinar panel, and you may have it minimized, so use the orange arrow in the upper corner to expand that, and you'll find the questions area as well as the handouts area there. So Neil, first question, does AVST license by user or by ports?
That's always kind of a challenge because we do a little bit of each. We start out thinking, well, we're a platform that has a lot of great communications capabilities, and there are things that everyone needs. So what do we think everyone needs? Well, everyone needs voicemail. So we don't license voicemail. You buy enough ports to cover your users, and voicemail comes with it. Most people need menuing, so we don't license menuing. Most people need mobile clients. I mean, the use for mobile clients today is just extremely high. So having the mobile client doesn't require a license. So that's kind of our core system. So if you need 48 ports will give you all that kind of functionality. But at the same time, there's applications that are specific to only certain groups of users. So if you look at things like some types of unified messaging where you're going to store your messages, let's say in your email server, that would require a per user license. The kind of routing we talked about where we read the context of the calendar and tell the user you're in a meeting, that would require a license. The team queue informal call center would require a license. It's pretty easy if you talk to one of our people for us to kind of lay out how it works. And all of our licenses are one-time licenses. There's no annual, like some of the call center licenses, you have to buy them every year. There is a small percentage for a maintenance contract moving forward, but all of our software licensing, you buy it once and it's yours.
Okay. Next question. Did you say the user interface is the same as CallPilot? Are there minor differences?
Yes, there have to be minor differences, and we will, if you get in touch with us, we'll send you a couple of documents that show our keystrokes are there side by side. All the messaging functionality is the same, so a user can call in and listen to messages, address messages to multiple recipients, stop in the middle of the message, all that's the same. But when it comes to setting up mailbox options, it's different. We have so many more options than CallPilot that we couldn't use their menu. It was kind of flat, and they used all the keys, and we still had some functions we needed. So some of the mailbox setup will be different, but all the key message handling features will be the same.
Okay, thanks, Neil. All right, it actually looks like that wraps up the questions, unless someone is still typing. We'll jump back in if we need to, if something comes through in the next couple of seconds here. But just want to give another quick reminder. Look for the follow-up email from us later today with the slides as well as the link to the recording. And we will also include a link to where you can find the upcoming schedule of webinars in case you want to join us for another one of these sessions in the next few weeks or next month. And again, we appreciate everyone taking the time to join us today, and I'll let Neil give his goodbye as well.
Thank you, Ann. We certainly do appreciate when people join us. And remember, we do these for you, so it's worth your time to tell us how we're doing. You can always reach us at info@avst.com and tell us the webinars are too short, they're too long, here's a subject we'd like you to cover, and we really would appreciate that feedback. So thank you, everybody, and have a good day.
Goodbye.
To learn more about AVST, please visit www.avst.com.